a day of chaos in the capital, where Sadiq Khan's highly contentious ULEZ expansion launched to howls of protest and vandalism. The controversial Clean Air Initiative imposes a daily charge of £12.50 on drivers of older, more polluting cars entering London. And in a sign of tension among local authorities, several councils refused to allow the mayor to put up signs warning motorists about the expanded zone. Well, residents are fighting back, supporting so-called Blade Runner vandals, who are damaging and destroying cameras by spraying them with paint, cutting wires and demolishing the poles they stand on. Furious demonstrators gathered at the gates of Downing Street, calling on the government to intervene. But Sadiq Khan stood his ground, saying it's about public health and not a cash grab.
If this was about making money, I would have acceded to the demand from the government to expand the congestion charge much wider than it currently is. That would have been a cash grab, but I said no. If it was a cash grab, as the government's saying, just to raise money, I'd have acceded to their demand to expand the ULEZ without proper consultation and a proper scrappage scheme. This is about helping our air be cleaner.
But drivers in Uxbridge told talkTV they don't agree.
Well, I'm not very happy with it. I'm not happy the way it's been done. Look, I'm all good, and I'm for the clean air concept that everybody wants, that's talking about around the world and the whole thing. Yeah, we're all good for that. But I don't think this is about the clean air issue.
I think it's totally wrong. £12.50 a day isn't going to change anything. It's not people who can afford cars or vehicles or whatever. It's people that are struggling, and it's just going to make people struggle even worse.
I think it's going to affect a lot of people, a lot of business people who struggle anyway.
Well, of course, London isn't the only city grappling with the consequences of low emission zones. From Bristol to Birmingham, Bath to Bradford, the schemes are changing city landscapes and dividing some communities. And that's clearly what this has done to London. It's divided a community. And 50% of Londoners don't have cars, so that 50%, which is a significant number, and let's not forget, probably majority Labour supporting, they won't be bothered at all. In fact, they will welcome this. And I think if you say to anybody, like our first Vox Pop there, if you say to anybody, do you want cleaner air? 100% of people would say, yes, of course we do. It's when you then follow it up with, and are you prepared to spend £12.50 on that a day, that people will say no. And the pips will squeak. I think his timing is bad. I think the way he's gone about is bad. But there is a bit in me that grudgingly, one of the things I constantly say on this programme is politicians are so short-term. They only care about votes. They only care, they don't want to change things. And I think Sadiq Khan does care about cleaner air, and I think he is really worried about pollution. And so I have a grudging admiration for somebody who's willing to be unpopular for something that they genuinely care about.
I don't think he cares one iota. I think he's just telling porky pies. The idea that a socialist would be imposing a taxation on the poorest, self-employed, vulnerable, people who need hospitals, patients,
so why is he doing it?
Because he's preening his environmental whiskers, basically.
He needs the money.
Despite the fact that he says in that clip, it's not about the money, it made £224 million last year. No one's going to tell me that just washed its face, to coin the phrase. That's a lot of money by anybody's standards.
But that
it doesn't work based on the science.
Which was
no, it wasn't.
That's
the ULEZ.
That's just the
ULEZ.
ULEZ. It doesn't work based on the science. It's a fee that if you pay it, you can pollute as much as you like, so it's contradictory in that sense. And if you look at the science, I mean, the other day, the deputy mayor was asking a scientist, could you just change the wording of your report? We covered this, Mike, didn't we? Could you change the wording of your report because it doesn't quite say that it's damaging kids? And the best guess, because all of these things are about statistical constructs, aren't they? You can bend statistics around. The best guess is that the most vulnerable person on the planet might have lived something like 40 hours longer throughout their life if this...
But I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry to jump in before, but we are the 18th worst city in the world for pollution, and we're the second worst in Europe. So something has got to be done about pollution.
That depends on who you listen to, because there's various stats on that. But we're unrecognisable from where we were 10 years ago or 20 years ago.
But so is every city.
Yeah, well, indeed, because the way we make... And by the way, air pollution doesn't mean car pollution. Air pollution is industry, it's domestic, it's glues, it's solvents, it's all manner of things. Everything. Fires, the Notting Hill Massive with their wood-burning stoves. That's half the problem as well. So all of this stuff is going on. You can't hypothecate it to Matey and his Ford Fiesta. That doesn't really work. And on top of all of that, this process will happen organically anyway, because people, the cars he's apparently concerned about. I mean, where else in a council spending spree would you get away with spending hundreds of millions of pounds to address something that affects about 7 or 8% of drivers, by his own reckoning?
The problem here is that you have two big issues going on. So you do have the issue of climate change and air pollution, which is a huge issue in London, and you have the issue of greenwashing. And so what we have is you have Sadiq Khan trying to roll out ULEZ, which has been sabotaged left, right and centre because of bad governance. And the whole issue of climate change, of clean air, of having better air for ourselves and our children is being lost in all this because this is seen as a money grab, because it hasn't been rolled out properly, and because of bad governance. Now, if we really wanted to do something about cleaning up the air in London, then, you know, if you really, really wanted to do something, you'd be banning cars altogether. It wouldn't be pay £12.50 so that you can drive your polluting car everywhere. And I'm not saying, sorry to interrupt, I'm not saying that that's what he should do. I'm interrupting you, interrupting me. I'm not saying that that's what he should do, but what I'm saying is if you really, really wanted to clean up the air, then you should be going that far. So you've got a mixture of things happening here. And my main concern is the issue of air pollution in London is being lost in amongst all these fights, in amongst communities divided, and in amongst bad governance.
Yes, but the point about the air pollution argument is that even Sadiq Khan says that's not about climate change. It's about something completely different. So he says this is not a climate change policy, and he's made that very clear. But the reason it's not about clean air is that, as Ian says, it's about making you pay to pollute it. They're basically saying, look, you can drive a polluting car, but basically we want you to pay £12.50 for the privilege of doing it.
But ULEZ does stop people driving because people simply can't afford it.
Well, it might stop some people driving, but it doesn't clean the air up just because you stop some people from driving.
No, but if you have fewer cars, you have less pollution.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if you can make that argument. For example, in the congestion zone, the congestion is worse than it's ever been. And I drive my car every day in London, so I can tell you exactly how bad it is. You know, and you can get a tube train to somewhere which is going to kill you far quicker than sitting in a car traffic jam. Because if we are told, as we are told, that the traffic, the air, as Sadiq Khan said today, in central London is better and cleaner than it's ever been, well, then presumably the cars that are sitting there all day, every day, pumping out their emissions, aren't creating any pollution.
Isn't there also
because you can't have it both ways, can you?
And isn't there also a problem with some of the... It's the bigger roads that tend to be the where you get the most pollution. I mean, you could argue that, you know, you would actually be better off going and targeting certain areas. I mean, you do wonder with so many people dropping off their children at schools, because, I mean, you know, the lovely thing about the school holidays is that you get so much less sort of congestion at school dropping off times. And you do wonder if actually that would be a better target. Yes, I know, but you get cars idling.
But you're not denying that the pollution in London is bad.
Me?
Yes.
You're asking? Well,
yes.
I'm told that it's as good and the air is as clean as it's ever been. That the air is a lot cleaner than it ever was. So before the congestion charge was put in, he's now claiming that because of the ULEZ fines that have been given out, which amounts to about a third of the 224 million that you talked about, apparently that's made the air better. So if the air is better and the cars are still congested, then you can't, you know, that doesn't make any sense.
The statistics on the congestion within the congestion zone, that although to you and me it still seems bad.
It is bad.
But it is bad. But it is not as bad as it was 15 years ago.
Well, that may be. But the point is it's still congested. And if you're going to tell me the air has improved and there's still congestion causing cars to pump out loads and loads of emissions, then how is it better?
But then you can just say, well, then the answer is to have less congestion, even less congestion.
Yeah, but the congestion charge doesn't create less congestion because there's more congestion because of the congestion charge. There's even more congestion outside.
My head's congested
and he
now.
said again, he said if he was making a money grab, he would have increased the congestion charge. Well, how is that any different? It's not any different. He's making £12.50 instead of £15.
Well, he did increase the congestion charge, by the way, increase the times of it as well.
Yeah, it's all smoke and mirrors.
I'm really worried that the audience
I was just about to say,
Is it the expansion? Is it the increase? Is it the increase of the
Absolutely
expansion?
not. I can tell you the audience is never bored when I'm here.